So you're ready to proceed with your signs. You've contacted your sign company and you're ready to move forward. And what you need to understand is this is a whole process that you have to go through. There are really 5 main parts that can be defined as this process of getting the sign. First, you have that of the research and budgeting. This is where you'd work typically with a sales associate to help guide you through that process of understanding what can be done and what zoning will allow and or your landlord will allow, and what kind of price tag or costs are associated with different options at this point. The second part of the process is that of design. Design sometimes works with that first phase. A lot of times we'll do an initial mock-up. A lot of sign companies will do an initial mock-up so they could help you understand what you would be paying for. And that design phase then carries through all the way up until the time permits are submitted for. Next is that of actually permitting, and this is where we work with our local jurisdiction of where you're located, your business, and we have to obtain 2 permits from them, one being that of zoning and the other being that of the building permit. After we obtain those permits, then we can move right into manufacturing and then install. So next I'm going to elaborate on each one of those phases so that you understand and can get the proper expectations for what we're going to be doing during those phases. During the first phase of research and budgeting, this is where we're going to do some deep dives into what zoning will allow and also what your landlord may allow. As stated before, your landlord may have a signage plan already in place. If they do, that's great. That means they've already had it vetted with their local municipality and that it's pretty much a game plan of here's the type and style of sign you can have. So then it's really just a matter of applying your logo and your copy to that sign and getting it specified for the next step. This is also where we're going to determine what your budget and how the type of sign that'll fit in your budget. There's many different ways that we can do signs. We can do them very inexpensively, or we can do them top of the line expensive. And the biggest thing is really the complexity and the look and the duration of how that sign is going to perform. So you could take the sign, and the price is driven mostly by the overall size and by the overall complexity of the build. At this point also, it's very common for the sign company to require 50% deposit. This is our way of making sure that you're committed to work with the sign company, and also it provides funding for them to start getting the initial resources needed to, one, run the administrative work and to purchase raw materials that are going to be needed to build your sign. The second phase is that of design. This is where we're going to do even deeper dive into design. This is where you would be given proofs from the sign company and where you can make changes based upon what you would really like to see as far as the look and feel. The overall size can be altered. Anything pretty much can be altered at this place as long as it doesn't interfere with what was learned in the first phase through your landlord requirements and or zoning. At this point here is the easiest time to make any changes. It's a lot easier with a couple keystrokes to make changes to your overall design and see what that's going to look like than to wait until the sign is built and then wish it would have been bigger, wish it would have maybe not had such a fancy script or something of that effect to make it a more legible sign and to perform better for you over the long term. After you've agreed to the design, that is when we can move into our permitting process. When we're going through our permitting, we're working with the municipality that is located where your business is going to be. There's 2 permits in the state of Ohio that are required for exterior signs. One is that of zoning. Zoning is the permit that basically dictates the look of the sign, the placement of the sign, the overall size of the sign, and the height at which the sign can be installed. Zoning gives you not a lot of leeway anymore. Zoning has gotten a lot stricter over the years. In a lot of places, there's actually commissions that you have to go to prior to even going to zoning, like a neighborhood commission, for example. So if you're dealing with a sign in the Easton area, you're probably going to have to deal with the Northeast Area Commission prior to even applying for a permit through the City of Columbus. Once zoning has approved your specifications and your sign requirements, the next step is that of the building department within that municipality. Within the state of Ohio, any plans require a stamped engineered drawing to accompany them. This means that you have to have a licensed engineer who has approved your sign drawings. And the main thing they're looking for here is how well your sign is built. Is it structurally sound? And then the second main thing they're looking at is the installation techniques and how the sign is installed. If it's on a wall, they want to make sure that it's going to stay on that wall, even in the event of sustained 80 to 100 mile an hour winds. And the same for a ground sign. So any sign that's installed in the ground, they're going to want to make sure from an engineering standpoint that sign is stable and going to stay there. So if we put a sign that's 80 foot up in the air, chances are you're looking at about a 15 to 20 foot deep hole in the ground to support that sign. So there's all kind of engineering, wind load calculations and such that have to go into that part of the process. It's also good to keep in mind that most sign companies will not even begin production until permits are obtained. And that is because of everything we just talked about. There are so many variables that the city may come back and want you to change. So since every sign is custom and built just for your specific need in your specific location, we can't just throw it back on the shelf like you would at your big box store and have somebody else come along and pick it up. Basically, if something has to change after production starts, that's becomes scrap and we have to start over. As we get into manufacturing, times will vary based upon the complexity of the sign that you are having built. On average, you can expect 2 to 6 weeks of production time. The main drivers of that is going to be the skill sets required to build the sign that you have designed and have ordered, and also the time of the year. Our industry is very seasonable, so fall time typically is very busy as everybody's trying to get everything done before winter. So you can expect a little bit longer lead time in the fall just because of the capacity of workload. And then the complexity and skill sets is what your other main driver is. So if you're requiring a sign that is halo lit, for example, that requires somebody who is a sheet metal fabricator who is very good at welding and finishing compared to something else that could be produced on a automated CNC bending type machine. After the manufacturing is completed, we would go into installation. Again here, this phase cannot be even scheduled typically until manufacturing is complete. Most installation companies will not even put it on their schedule until they have that product in hand. That way they can ensure that they're not wasting man hours sitting around the shop waiting for your project to get out of manufacturing. Installation can range from a few hours to a few weeks depending upon the complexity and the size of the job. But overall, the installation is one of the quickest parts of the process and the most rewarding, as you can see the product actually being put into place for you. That basically sums up the 5 main areas of what it takes and what the process that your sign goes through. As you can see, it's not a simple process, and it can be quite timely, as permits on their own typically take anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. However, in our COVID times that we're living in today, we're seeing a lot of those timelines double, as a lot of the municipality workers are working from home. And so they only go into the office usually once or twice a week to pick up their workload, then go home and complete it, take it back in, then it has to go to somebody else. So it's just not as efficient for them. So overall, we're seeing our extended time periods from the time that you agree to work with a sign company to the time the product is actually installed. And unfortunately, a lot of that is on the front end on the design and permitting side. But overall, once you get through that painful part, of going through the permitting, that's when things really start to roll forward and you get into the manufacturing and installation. Again, my name is Paul Lyda with Sign Effects, and if you have any questions or would like any assistance or to dig deeper in any of these areas, by all means, you could reach out to us. And our phone number is 614-869-4000. Thank you very much for watching.